Liverpool 2, Sheffield United 1. Roberto, Firmino and Diogo Jota helping the Reds come from behind to see off the Blades after yet more VAR intervention against Jurgen Klopp's side. Welcome to the Debrief Live here on the Blood Red channel. I'm Guy Clarke. Alongside me, Matt Addison, as we look back on the Reds' 2-1 win over Sheffield United at Anfield. Matt, another game for the Reds in the Premier League and yet more VAR controversy. We'll get to the goals, but I think tonight we probably got to start with what everyone's talking about yet again, VAR.
Yeah, again, one of those things, isn't it? We seem to talk about it every single week, and we seem to say the same sort of things, really. I think for me, VAR shouldn't be as big a talking point as what it is tonight. I think we're going to get into more of that later. I'd much rather be sat here talking about what was a much improved second half performance from Liverpool. It was an important one for them to win. I think if you want to be in with a shout of winning a Premier League title, you've got to be beating the likes of Sheffield United at home. That's what Liverpool have done tonight. I thought Sheffield United put in a really, really good performance. I'm really surprised that that's only the third goal they've scored this season. They've lost 5 out of their 6 games so far. That didn't look like a team tonight who were in that sort of form and in that kind of position. So for Liverpool to get this win with that frustration at a VAR, with the difficulties, the lack of creativity that they had in that first half, I think it's a really, really big 3 points.
Yeah, it certainly does feel like, as you say, it is a big 3 points. Certainly Liverpool coming from behind. Got a number of people getting in touch this evening. Chris Faulkner says, didn't like the formation, but Jota is quality. We've also got a few shouts for Joe Gomez and also Jordan Henderson as well, and how well he played in the game. We'll get to a few of the individual performances, but let's talk then a bit more about VAR then. And 2 incidents really within the game. Obviously, Sheffield United's goal coming around after a foul initially deemed by Mike Dean on the edge of the box by Fabinho on Oli McBurnie. And then obviously in the second half, Mo Salah thinks he scored potentially goal of the season. It was an absolutely incredible take from him out of the sky, and the volley past Ramsdale, only for offside on VAR to sort of cancel that one out. Matt, what were your takes on them? Liverpool hard done by, or is it one of those where actually, letter of the law, it probably has gone the way it should have?
Yeah, I mean, I think we said before we came on air, didn't we? Myself and you tend to have a different view of this, I think, to a lot of people. I've not even said it yet, and I can already hear people screaming at the screens, going to the Twitter accounts, please don't come and at me. I will respond to you and tell you, in my opinion, that was a correct decision from VAR. I think it was a foul. I think Mike Dean was correct in the modern game. Fabinho has come from behind. He's took the man first. He did get a big portion of the ball, but I think, you do run that risk when you dive in, particularly in those sorts of areas. You do run the risk, really, of those sorts of decisions being given. So Mike Dean sees that it's a foul, and I think he's absolutely correct to give that. It's one of those borderline ones. It could have been one that Fabinho got away with, but he didn't. He dived in and he gave away that foul. Obviously, the free kick is then given. It goes to VAR to check whether or not it is inside the box. And unfortunately for Liverpool, it was just a couple of millimetres onto the line. Now, if the foul takes place on the line, which it did, by the letter of the law, it is a penalty kick. So for me, that was the correct decision. I can understand the frustration. As much as it was the correct decision, I still think it was really, really unfortunate because, 9 times out of 10, that probably doesn't get given, even though I think it probably should do. So Liverpool, really, really unfortunate, especially when you can compare it to the Chelsea against Manchester United game, which came immediately before. Harry Maguire's got his arms all over Azpilicueta, and VAR doesn't then give a penalty. So it is that inconsistency that people get annoyed by. But for me, Fabinho can't have too many complaints. So look, it's one of those, I think it's very, very similar, I would say, to the disallowed Jordan Henderson goal in the Merseyside derby, in that by the letter of the law, it is offside in that Everton instance. Again, it was only by a couple of millimetres, but VAR is going to check it and it's going to find the right decision in the end. So for me, it was the right call. Liverpool then had to react, bounce back, and that's what they did. So look, I think we can all sit back and smile about it a little bit. Whether people will, I don't know. But Liverpool have won the game anyway today. And for me, I said at the time, and I maintain it now, that was for me the right decision there. But I appreciate not everyone is going to agree.
Yeah, a few people saying that they didn't feel it was a penalty. And I think one of the key things to just sort of try and clarify with VAR is I think that the idea isn't always that the video refs sort of re-referee the decision. Mike Dean had a brilliant view of the tackle, deemed that it was a foul, and I think the reason also he didn't go and look at the screen was because for him with VAR it would have been a conversation on the headset. Was that on the line, i.e. is it a penalty or was it outside the box? And obviously it was decided that it was in the penalty area, it was a penalty, it was given, it was scored. But we can all look back on it now and say thankfully it doesn't really matter because Liverpool were able to come from behind and win the game and take all 3 points. And let's talk about how they did that then. Matt, first half it had not really been Liverpool free-flowing and firing at their best. Obviously, it was a different shape. We've already alluded to that before with Diogo Jota, along with Roberto, Firmino, Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah in the starting lineup. And yet it was nearly Trent who sort of got the ball rolling for Liverpool with an effort inside his own half before, of course, towards the back end of the half, Roberto Firmino was able to get his first Anfield goal of the season in what are we, the third game at Anfield? So we don't need to have that chat all this season saying how long is it going to take him to score in the league at Anfield?
I mean, the Trent shot, first and foremost, it's one of those moments that will slightly get forgotten because it was, fairly early in the game, but I thought that was a really, really inventive attempt. And to be honest, it was one of the few moments in that first half where Liverpool really showed a bit of creativity and did something that you wouldn't expect them to do. And it was really good to see Trent do that. Obviously, he's got the confidence and we know he's got the ability to pull something like that off. I suppose it was, as I say, one of those rare moments where Liverpool did try something a little bit different because the formation, as one or two people are saying on the YouTube chat, it just didn't quite work for Liverpool. It was a formation I thought made sense going into the game. It was, when we did our teams earlier in the day, we all picked, which team we wanted to see Jurgen Klopp pick. That was the shape, not necessarily the people in that formation, but certainly the formation that I would have wanted Liverpool to play. And I think probably we will see it again at some point. I think possibly, though, you probably need Thiago Alcantara in there just to make it flow a little bit better, make it a bit more fluid in the midfield. I thought Jordan Henderson was excellent in the second half, but both him and Wijnaldum in there, not quite the type of midfield too, I think, that would make that formation flow at its absolute best. So not really the most fluid of performances in the first half, but Liverpool did get themselves level, as you say. An important goal for Roberto Firmino. It sort of ends the conversation again about his scoring at least for another couple of weeks. The fact that he's got himself on the score sheet, and generally I thought just looked at a lot better in himself today. Just take the goal away from it. I just thought his touch, his passing, his involvement just generally in the game was really much better than what we've seen. So that was obviously really, really promising to see. And I don't think it was a massive shock that improvement in performance came with him as a number 10. I think he looked, with three players around him rather than just Salah and Mane either side, he just looked far, far more comfortable. We've seen him over the last couple of weeks dropping very, very deep in that number 9 role and almost playing as a number 10, even though he wasn't playing in that number 10 role. But, tonight he could do that. He just looked so much more comfortable. And obviously we know that Roberto Firmino almost is the Liverpool system. He is the player that if he plays well, Liverpool play well. And for me, that's why, even though it wasn't quite as fluid as what you would have wanted, 4-2-3-1 going forward is an option that Jurgen Klopp has to think about again, just to get the best out of him, really.
Yeah, what about then Diogo Jota? We'll sort of highlight a few individual performances now. Diogo Jota, obviously, he got what did turn out to be the winner, his second goal for the Reds at Anfield. The first Liverpool player to score in his first 2 home games at Anfield in the Premier League since Sadio Mane. Whatever happened to him in September 2016? He does look, whether it be playing right wing, whether it be playing left wing, or even at times towards the end there before he came off right wing back, he looks to be as though he's sort of been in that Liverpool system forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we thought that Liverpool were getting, isn't it? It's a perfect player to fit into that system, possibly to follow in Sadio Mane's footsteps. I think that's the 18th goal that Diogo Jota has scored in the Premier League, but it's the first headed goal. And again, that's something that Sadio Mane is exceptionally good at, very, very good in the air, Roberto Firmino's goal, for example, today, you were surprised really that Mane didn't finish off that Jordan Henderson cross himself. Obviously, the goalkeeper makes the save and the rebound is put in. But yeah, I thought Diogo Jota in the first half looked a little bit lost at times, but certainly in the second half improved a massive amount. And yeah, again, going forward, if Liverpool are to play that 4-2-3-1 system, he is the one. I thought, Minamino did a few good things when he came on, but Diogo Jota for me is the favourite 100% at this moment in time to come in. So, look, we've seen him do little bits and pieces for Liverpool, but this was the first sort of almost not complete performance in everything that he did perfect, but the first sort of 90-minute spell where he's put it together, worked with his teammates, started and looked a real part of this team. So, when Liverpool were poorer in that first half, so was he. When Liverpool improved, he improved with them. And I think if he work and get better in that understanding with the rest of the front, the rest of the front four, the other three players alongside him, that's something for Liverpool to really think about. Obviously, took the goal brilliantly well. Could have had a couple of other goals in different instances and different moments. But yeah, as you say, a really positive start for him. Easy to forget, really, watching him, how sort of early we are in his Liverpool career. And he's going to take it slow. He's going to take it step by step. But we've seen, not just tonight, but in a couple of other performances now from him, that he looks like a Liverpool player. And to be doing that at this stage of his Liverpool career, yeah, it's a really, really promising sign.
Yeah, it certainly is. Before we go, then, Jurgen Klopp's press conference will come up on the Blood Red channel after we are done here with the debrief, myself and Matt. But before we go, Matt, let's quickly talk about Joe Gomez. Alisson Becker, we've not even got onto him, was a surprise selection for the start of the game. Obviously did what he normally does between the sticks, but Joe Gomez in front of him. We know how tight him and Virgil van Dijk are off the pitch, and on the pitch today, I know sometimes he gets referred to as Mini Van Dijk. He sort of seemed to have that presence about him at times, albeit let's not get carried away.
Yeah, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I mean, he's come under a lot of criticism, quite rightly, Joe Gomez. Obviously, the Aston Villa game, I think, was, to be fair, probably the worst game that he's put in a Liverpool shirt. But this was, really, really strong. He was on the front foot. Oli McBurnie is a player that I've seen plenty of times when he was coming through the system at Swansea. He used to give Liverpool's under-23s the absolute run around every time I saw him. He's done exactly the same with plenty of teams going forward. He was one that I picked out in a piece going into the game. He was one that you sort of worried a little bit for Joe Gomez and Fabinho. Obviously, it's not Fabinho's natural position, that centre-back role. Is he the best in the air? Probably not. Up to now in Joe Gomez's career, has he been the best in the air? Again, probably not. Possibly because Virgil van Dijk is alongside him, and most things that go up in the air, it's not Joe Gomez's job to go and win that and be strong in the air. But I thought he took on that role really, really nicely tonight. And it's interesting that you say there that, he could be a sort of mini version of Van Dijk. I thought, not just the sort of aerial duels, the winning, the strength defensively, but again, we saw it midweek against Ajax. Liverpool very much trying to get other players to replicate that pass into Mohamed Salah that Virgil van Dijk does so well. And Joe Gomez did that a couple of times tonight. His passing was really, really excellent. Obviously, we've seen it for the last couple of seasons, how good he is on the ball, how fantastically technically gifted he is for a centre-back. But I suppose when Virgil van Dijk isn't there, it sort of makes you remember that a little bit more. And I thought that was, certainly a positive. He's never going to be as good as Van Dijk, I don't think. But, Joe Gomez is a really top-class centre-back. And I thought we saw the real Joe Gomez tonight, whereas, one or two times this season, we've maybe not quite seen that. So, look, he has to stay fit. He has to keep performing like that. But if he does, Liverpool are not going to miss Van Dijk too much because they've got, alongside, Fabinho with him, two really, really top-class centre-backs there.
Yeah, I think for me, with the Van Dijk thing of almost morphing into him for a brief moment was, I think, inside left channel, Oli McBurnie came on, had the ball. He tried to drive out Fabinho, and then out of nowhere, like Van Dijk often does, Gomez just came across screening, made the tackle for his mate and got Liverpool out of trouble. And he did win a number of actual important free kicks as well for Liverpool, even defensively, stepping in, winning the ball, having a slight trip on him and going down, winning the free kick, and obviously Liverpool able to reset from there. But that's it from us here on the Blood Red channel for now on the Debrief Live. Thanks to Matt Addison for joining myself, Guy Clarke. Stick with us. Jurgen Klopp's press conference will be coming up, and then don't forget, after the weekend, after all the Premier League action is done for the week, the Blood Red podcast will be with you on Monday afternoon as we look back on the win over Sheffield United and ahead to Liverpool's next outing, of course, back at Anfield against Midtjylland in the Champions League. But for now, thanks for joining on Blood Red. That's all.